I want to speak to you about a new organization called the Eco-Modernist Society of North America. I'm here because we are in the midst of a potentially monumental ecological crisis. It is only through a new environmentalism 2.0 that progress can be made. We believe that our only hope for human advancement and even human survival is through the exponential advance of science in the service of humanity. We stand firmly against the war on science that is predicated on the appeal to nature fallacy, which is the belief that whatever is natural must be good and whatever is unnatural must be bad. This belief has become an impediment to advances in areas such as human health, social progress, and even environmental progress. In the field of medicine, the appeal to nature fallacy has already led to catastrophic outcomes. Resistance to vaccines threatens public health and the lives of children. The unwarranted resistance to GMOs has not only held back the fight against climate change, but it has also hampered our ability to feed the developing world as well. Campaigns against GMOs have also held back efforts to ward off the deadly Aedes aegypti mosquito, which has killed countless millions as a carrier of disease and plagues. The scientific consensus concerning the safety of GMOs is solidly supported in every major scientific organization across the planet. The only thing green about being anti-GMO is the extra cash that is made by overcharging for expensive boutique food. But that won't cut it when it comes to raising crops with accelerating heat stress, droughts, floods, disease, and insect infestations brought on by a hotter planet. It makes no sense to accept the call of the IPCC for decarbonization within the next 12 years and yet reject their conclusion that these goals are impossible without nuclear power, which has proven itself to be the cleanest, safest, and most reliable way of achieving decarbonization. It is the most reliable way to decarbonize simply because the alternatives of weather-dependent power sources are inherently unreliable. And nuclear is the cleanest energy source because it is the only form of energy production that completely encases its waste stream. Super safe, advanced Generation 4 reactors, which will almost completely convert existing nuclear waste to centuries worth of energy, are coming very close to commercialization. In fact, it goes completely against most everything we're led to believe, but nuclear is legitimately the safest form of energy generation according to all the accepted worldwide energy fatality data. But there is one thing that nuclear is not safe for, and that is the fossil fuel industry. The fact of the matter is that the fossil fuel industry has a long history of funding the anti-nuclear movement, along with climate change deniers, to protect their bottom line. Solid science is in dire need of a champion. And that is what eco-modernism is all about. Eco-modernism is a new environmental paradigm which looks to reverse the fear of nuclear power and scientific progress in general. Ecology-based modernism is the most direct way to define it. Eco-modernism as a philosophy is described in the Eco-Modernist Manifesto. We believe humanity should not be rejecting technological progress, but rather separate our impacts from nature through the responsible use of technology and urbanization. Urbanization is an unstoppable worldwide trend and the best solution to many environmental problems. It offers sustainable development for the human population and is a historic antidote to both deforestation and species extinction as humans move away from using wildlife as their protein source. Vertical, urban, high-rise architecture minimizes the use of land, resources, and energy, enabling walkable cities that facilitates the more efficient use of mass public transit as well. It must be emphasized that our support for technological solutions is definitely not about defending industrial polluters, nor do we accept funding from corporations or industry. Nor does our defense of technology imply that we just need to sit back and let things take care of themselves. To the contrary, we believe that humanity is at a crossroads that severely threatens our future on this planet. We reject the idea of resource limits on many levels. The advance of science has a long history of getting around problems of resource scarcity and will continue to do so. Another reason is that Earth is just one of a multitude of worlds available to explore in our solar system and beyond. Comets and asteroids are untapped reservoirs for raw materials. If we could find a way to thrive in artificial ecosystems off-world, we could use what we learn to help sustain terrestrial ecosystems here on Earth. I hope by now you understand the worthiness of our cause. Ecomodernism is really only a philosophy at this time. I want to talk to you about the necessity of turning it into a movement, which will be part of the larger environmentalist movement. For it is only through our presence and participation that there can be any hope of moving environmentalism in the right direction. Our aim is not to divide the environmental movement, but rather to multiply its numbers with the incorporation of many scientific and educational communities that is working to both build chapters of eco-modernist societies and support our growth worldwide. We aspire to increase our numbers by bringing together the numerous supporters of climate action that have been alienated by mainstream environmentalism's wildly contradictory support for the shutting down of nuclear power plants in the midst of a climate emergency, and welcome them into our ranks. Thank you.
Please subscribe to us on YouTube, EcoModern channel. Also to subscribe to us on Twitter and Facebook, EcoModern Society of North America.
On another planet Let me tell you something, brother, about you and me. There's no such a thing called freedom, just a word they say. Freedom is in heaven, that's where it stays. Just a word they say. Freedom, just a word they say. Let me tell you something about this world I see. With my own two eyes, 20/20 vision. Let me tell you something, brother, about you and me. Just a word they say. Freedom is in heaven, that's where it stays. Freedom, just a word they say. Freedom, just a word they say.
Hello and welcome to the Eco Modernist Channel Live. I'm Carl Pauls. I'm here with Chris Bergen, and unfortunately, we have not seen our guest, and I have a very busy day. So we're just going to cover some really essential news. It's a big time for nuclear, and the current U.S. administration is seemingly going to do something about it this time, which should be great news. Are you hopeful, Chris?
Uh, well, I'm not hopeful that things will be set right instantly, but I think the chaos, as some people would put it, there's always opportunity,
Yeah.
and that's I guess that's where we can look towards.
Opportunity would be outstanding, and I'm going to bring us a couple of different opinions on this. And so let me bring up a content screen and we can chat about this.
Just quick background, people. Are you bringing up the EOs?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, executive orders from President Trump of the United States. He wants to move us towards nuclear. He wants to have more nuclear. Huge amount. It's like quadruple in 35 years, roughly.
Yeah.
Which I kind of doubt that's possible, but I think doubling nuclear, or excuse me, tripling, coming close to tripling nuclear might be possible. Quadrupling, no.
Yeah.
But
It certainly is our commitment, even under President Biden. That was our commitment at the international meetings, at the climate meetings in Abu Dhabi.
Mhm.
We made this commitment along with many other leaders across the globe that we were going to increase nuclear by 200%. I forget what the exact number is. So yeah, triple nuclear. It's a great start, and increasing nuclear by 4 gigawatts a month long term. That's sort of my ambitious slope. I would love to see that slope of nuclear improvement. I'm sort of betting my career on it at this point, I guess.
And some of the problem we see is you mentioned 4 gigawatts of nuclear per month. How many gigawatts did we just build in Georgia?
We built almost 3, and it
Almost
took
3.
15 years.
Which, granted, that's starting from a standing still position. Just like if you're running in athletics, it's easier if you get a running start, like the broad jump. Now, we used to have the Olympic event where you stood for your jump, and then they changed to a running start for jumping. I forget if those were 2 separate events. They might have been, but there's a huge difference. But for us to go almost 3 gigawatts in several years, and now we're going to talk about every month putting out 4, that doesn't seem likely.
It seems unlikely. But let's talk about that. China, of all people, is doing close to that. They are close to doing their, like, let's say China is responsible for a quarter of the world, and the US is responsible, and Europe more, and perhaps Africa is responsible for the other. Those are the big sections. And so maybe if we get Europe and the rest of Southeast Asia, Europe, Russia, and Asia, there's billions of people there. There's billions of people in China. There's billions of people that will be in Africa, and should probably be a billion people in America. Let's go. More housing, right? But if we all are investing in nuclear, all like 4 places around the world, a gigawatt a month, seems like China's doing it, or they're very close. So
China's had about 20 years to get rolling up to this speed.
Yes.
And they got started. And they got started because we had an agreement between the United States and China to share all of our non-military nuclear information. I believe it was all, which would include medical and industrial uses, but as far as electricity production, I know it meant share everything we have, all of our university research up day by day, month by month. And then it stopped because the agreement ended. But that got China rolling pretty quick because they suddenly had access to all of our information. So, do we have access to our own information anymore? Or did Doge put a stop to that? I'm joking.
Well, we did have a small cut. We had a small cut to the NRC, and it might be contrary. And I think that Jack Devaney has some thoughts about this, that the cuts may be contrary to some of the work that we did. So Trump's executive order on the NRC has been issued. Is it possible to be both unsurprised and disappointed? The EO is basically a requirement that the NRC reconsider its behavior. Consider in various forms shows up even 7 times in a 1,600-word document. Most of the order is so unspecific as to be meaningless, but there are a few places where it gets semi-specific. Here's some extracts. NRC utilizes safety models that posit there is no safe threshold of radiation exposure and that harm is directly proportional to the amount of exposure. Those models lack sound scientific basis. Okay, that's a good start. The NRC's and here's a rewrite. I'm not going to say the rewrites because I want to make clear what is coming from the administration and what Jack is hypothesizing. So if you want to read the rest of it, I'm going to put it in the chat. I'm going to put it in the show notes if we have a opportunity to do that.
But I did get a chance to look at that actually yesterday, and I'll just, as a very vague summarization, Devaney wants them to just say LNT is outlawed. You need to do the right thing now, and just don't worry about talking about it. Almost, he just says, go do the right thing. You know what it is. You know what the science is.
Yeah.
Just get rid of LNT, and no, we shouldn't have anything below 100 millisieverts or perhaps 60 millisieverts. If you want to be very conservative, for like a week's exposure is what I would project myself. But he just says, tear up everything that you know is fundamentally flawed, and move forward like it's the 1950s almost. That's how I read his post.
And the next one, when carrying out its licensing and related regulatory functions, the NRC shall consider the benefits of increased availability and innovation in nuclear power to our economic and national security, in addition to safety, health, and environmental considerations. And okay, so we shall consider it, but that doesn't give us any tools to say what level of improved economy is worth sacrificing safety, health, and environment. And I think Jack has a similar criticism, that he would rather see a thorough analysis. And so it is about what kind of power we use, what kind of power we need. It's not just that we need more power, it's that we already have demand for power, we already have ways of supplying it, and we have a cost-benefit analysis that we could have.
And we have uses to greatly increase our energy use. If we had easy affordable access to larger amounts of energy, we already have things that we'd like to do with it.
Yeah.
People are kind of waiting to get to those things.
The NRC, and this is in the next paragraph, the NRC, working with its DOGE team, the Office of Management and Budget, and other executive departments and agencies as appropriate, shall undertake a review and wholesale revision of its regulations and guidance documents. So this following reduction of staff at the NRC is a monkey wrench in the works. It is
It's concerning.
It is very concerning to me too. It is like, shall undertake a review and revision of regulations and guidance documents. So that's like saying, okay, all of your baselines, you throw them out. We're going to start over, or like start like mandatory review of all of the guideline baselines is a little disappointing. It is like, if you wanted to slow down the NRC, this is a great way to start.
And the NRC does many things besides they deal with medical exports and imports. You know, and they do so many varied things.
Yeah.
That this is
this is
throw everything out.
This is an unfunded mandate. It's really weird.
Well, NRC is mostly self-funded, but that means they take money away from other programs,
right,
for a period of a few months or maybe a year to self-fund this.
Yeah, and so, and I understand why Jack's version that replaces this, because it references Nuclear Energy Innovation and Modernization Act, a bipartisan piece of legislation. You know, we were already making progress on that in the previous administration, and you know, you're not allowed to credit the previous administration these days, so it disappointing. Right, so this one is from the order, I believe, and it says, adopt science-based radiation limits. In particular, the NRC shall reconsider reliance on the linear no-threshold model for radiation exposure as low as reasonably achievable standard, which is predicated on LNT. Those models are flawed, as discussed in Section 1. In reconsidering those limits, the NRC shall specifically consider adopting determinate radiation limits, and in doing so shall consult with the DOE, DOD, and EPA. So I had some time speaking with health physics scientists and radiation oncologists on this topic, and they told me that it would take billions of cell samples to actually determine like what a real safe dose of radiation would be. And that's why this making a determination of a radiation limit is incredibly complex. And even if ALARA is not the right thing, this seems like a lot of work to me.
There's a lot of, like the recently departed Les Chorus. He wrote repeatedly about replacing it with, instead of as low, let's go as high as high as long as it's reasonably safe.
Yeah.
And he said, let's flip that.
Mm-hmm.
And I like that idea.
And we have advisory doses. We have we have doses that are advisory. We have levels of detection. That's not really going to change. We are we're very safety conscious in the nuclear industry from experience, and I'm not representing my employer, but from my learning, even before this job, I know that it is not something that we will be cavalier about. If we don't have normal radiation, we have a problem, and we're going to fix it.
Mm-hmm.
So,
you're second generation with the nuclear background, right?
Right, I am.
Yeah.
My dad was working at SATSUP and Watts Bar, and so yeah, it's a second generation for my family. The next section, revise in consultation with the Council on Environmental Quality NRC regulations governing NRC's compliance with the National Environmental Policy Act, reflect Congress's 2023 amendments to that statute and the policies articulated in sections 2 and 5 of EO January 2020, Unleashing American Energy. And Jack thinks that's okay. It's procedural. Brings us closer in line to other momentum building things, hopefully. And then establish a process for high volume licensing of microreactors and modular reactors, including by allowing for standardized applications and approvals and by considering what extent such reactors or components thereof should be regulated through general licenses. This is a little exciting, maybe. I remember James Hoff advocating for commodity equipment rather than having to have each individual batch go through non-destructive and destructive testing, that we have commodity production lines with known performance characteristics and not have to have redundant testing. So general licenses for that kind of component sounds really interesting.
And just have occasional quality checks every
and
every 30th or every 400th part. Whatever.
We have to do those anyways. We really do. So there's some general critiques here. Jack says, under current NRC rules, each U.S. nuclear plant is protected by 100 or more special ops guys. This is extremely inefficient, does nothing to prevent the real threat, aircraft and missile attacks. The EO says only revise the reactor oversight process and reactor's security rules and requirements to reduce unnecessary burdens and be responsive to credible risks.
Yeah, I think the credible risks in the past have been people cutting a fence so they could get to the outer parking lot and have Instagram photos or something of them invading, or you can go back to was it the German Green Party launching a grenade, having a grenade launcher, which actually did strike the containment dome and put a moderate scratch in it, I think.
But
so it's
but not like well, I would love to take drone photos of my local nuclear reactor. I know that I can't do that. And that's something that's disallowed. But would like clamping down to only credible risks, would that permit something like that? Would it free up the airspace? Would it allow for, more civilian activity with some oversight? Maybe. I don't know. There's a lot left here. I'm gonna get us to the next part.
And just for those listening, that was Jack Devaney at the Gordian Knot News. That's his Substack, Gordian Knot, KNOT.
Gordian Knot. Next, we have Isabel Boenke, and here is her thread on executive orders. Isabel says, the truth is that the aftermath of the oil shock of the 70s had a lot to do with reactors disappearing. It's not just regulation. We, in fact, have had approvals recently, but this would be giving credit to prior administrations. Kairos Hermes 1-2, Natura, TerraPower, and X Energy, and BWRX. We just spoke with them. Sorry, or I just spoke with them. I forget the name of the company. It is GE Hitachi. So yeah, TerraPower, GE Hitachi, X Energy, Kairos Hermes, and ACU's Natura, all going through the regulatory process, all going through regulatory reformed process, or in the process of being reformed. Go ahead.
And likely, unless we really strip out things from regulatory stuff, these won't be approved and be going online with first criticality in this administration, more than likely.
Yeah.
Assuming that Trump's second administration holds to 4 years, then it will be in the next. It will be in the next. So this is multi. These are all 3 administrations that they will stretch over.
Yeah.
And that's what we need for infrastructure. Infrastructure isn't this, that. It shouldn't be partisan.
Right.
This is something that society needs if we want to be a modern 21st century society. And so we need steadiness in how we get these done over long periods of time.
We don't need an unreliable regulator. We need consistency, and we could do a lot of this with consistency. We could dial back Alara in some way, not my professional opinion, my personal opinion. We could do a lot to improve things. But yeah, this is complicated.
Any changes we make should be changes which are permanent. Or if they're changed later, it should be very minor tweaks.
Yeah.
Not something that's going to be jerked to one side and jerked to the other side. And
yeah,
that we just lose momentum in doing that.
So Isabel has a great thread here. I'm going to link it now just so that people can see it.
Okay.
And so second order is reforming R&D through the DOE. And Isabel likes this. Exactly what we need. Classifies advanced reactors as research reactors. Gives the DOE authority to approve SMRs. Expedites or eliminates non-essential environmental reviews. But it is missing some follow-up, it says. She has great suggestions for adding to this. Like repeat builds of the same design. I think we kind of have the process for that, and it is evolving, but maybe a part of that EO could have reinforced it. Next EO is reinvigorating the nuclear industrial base. Restart of closed plants, increased output in operating plants, finish half-built reactor. Yes, all of these things. Isabel's suggestions, National Buyers Club, mandate order books for key designs. And this is really like these things like sources of finance and stable supply chain is something that legislators that I've spoken with in my advocacy work, they're looking for it. They're looking for like plans to deploy, how long is it going to take, the details, the actual details, jobs. How are we building these things? The wind and solar industries have the answers to those. The nuclear industry needs to be more vocal with their specific plans of how things can be done and can be built. I hope that we see more people being more descriptive in their legislative outreach, in their government outreach. The final order is nuclear energy for homeland for national security. EO directs the DoD to identify 9 military facilities that can host nuclear reactors within 6 days. Ooh. Well, the reactors won't be done in 60 days, but the facilities will be ready.
Well, identifying the facilities.
Okay.
Yeah.
So,
interesting thing about
go ahead.
Well, but the Department of Defense, they can sidestep a lot of what the NRC involvement would be. Not necessarily all of it. I don't know the details, but I know a large portion of that. They can sidestep and just build it for the most part. So that this portion is interesting, and it could lead to confidence in the the one or two designs that the military might decide to use.
Well, I think we're going to leave it there. Unfortunately, I've got stuff to do, but if you have seen that there was nuclear executive orders, there is some hope. It's certainly better than the previous Trump administration, and I'm somewhat thankful for that. I wish that we didn't have a reduction in staffing or reduction or change in the allocation of funds to the NRC. That seems like a mistake when we're mandating review, but otherwise, it is what it is.
Yeah, I think one last quick note, it's not just federal. There is state level where they are actively pursuing. Governors are calling for nuclear, including my own state hasn't gone any farther than calling for it. But my governor has said she will issue her own executive order saying that there should be a feasibility study. We need to vigorously pursue nuclear and look at it. So far, those are just words, but I know other states, they're actively doing it. They're taking bids. They're talking to contractors, and they're trying to line things up on the state level besides getting some federal support. So nuclear is coming around, but it's a big ship against a big current. So it's going to take a while to get that ship turned and get some momentum in the other direction.
Well, thank you all for your time and attention. Unfortunately, it's too late to give our Earth organization for sustainability a good shake. We're going to try to reschedule. I'm sorry I wasn't able to get them on with us in time, so we just did a little bit of news reporting instead. Thank you all. Remember, and you can find us every Sunday here at 10 a.m. Pacific, 1 p.m. Eastern, right here on Eco-Modernist 1 on YouTube. That's the Eco-Modernist channel. You can find us online at ESNA.earth. That's ESNA.earth. You can find us on Facebook at the Eco-Modernist Society of North America. And you can find us rebroadcast at my personal channels. I'm Carl Alex Pauls on Twitter, and I am Soyaddle on Twitch, soyaddle.tv. Thank you all again, and remember, emissions first, peace and justice will follow.
I want to speak to you about a new organization called the Eco-Modernist Society of North America. I'm here because we are in the midst of a potentially monumental ecological crisis. It is only through a new environmentalism 2.0 that progress can be made. We believe that our only hope for human advancement and even human survival is through the exponential advance of science in the service of humanity. Eco-modernism is a new environmental paradigm which looks to reverse the fear of nuclear power and scientific progress in general. Ecology-based modernism is the most direct way to define it. Eco-modernism as a philosophy is described in the Eco-Modernist Manifesto. We believe humanity should not be rejecting